Lemon Amiga presents a late-night video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi there, once again, welcome to another Lemon Amiga play guide and review. This time we'll be taking a look at a selection of Pac-Man clones developed on the Amiga, further taking a look at Deluxe Pac-Man and even Pacmania later on. But for now, let's begin our quest with Pac-boy, which was developed by Digital Artwork and published by Softgang in 1987. All the graphics and the code was provided by Guido Stapel. And you can see the format of Pac-Man hasn't really changed much from Toru Iwatani's original 1980 creation. He based the main character on a pizza in an effort to find a game which would appeal to girls. And the effort to create a pizza which would chomp around the level and munch up the landscape was supposed to appeal to girls because apparently girls liked eating. So that's the origin of the game. It appeared in the arcades in 1980 and Pac-Land appeared in 1984. Apparently the name began as Puck-Man, but in America they decided that Puck-Man was too close to a swear word, and so it was changed to Pac-Man instead. And so Paku is also a Japanese god who is famous for eating. So that's the history out of the way. You can see there all the player has to do is to gobble up all those pills and all those dots on the map, and a red pill will give us invulnerability from those ghosts for a limited number of seconds. And you can see I have one remaining in the corner, and all we have to do is avoid those ghosts and chomp the level away. You can see on this game the ghosts are wise to our maneuvers, so we have to be brave there, and we have to figure out a way to get around those things. And hopefully their intelligence in this game isn't too smart that we can't outmaneuver those. Well, so much for that. Luckily it gives us a break, and when the next level appears we can then march on to more score. Unfortunately in that game the levels are identical from level to level, so let's move on to another game. This is Pac-Man from 1987, again released in the same year as our previous one, but unlike the previous game, this game is silent, which is a shame. But the levels do change from level to level. So you can see there extra traps on the floor, and we also have escape routes there. We can take the doors left and right, and that will escape the level. But you can see there triggering a trap on the floor instantly kills us, and on the left there are spikes which emerge from the sides of that alleyway there, so it's a good idea to avoid it. This game was created by Steve Jacobs and Jim Boyd. It's a public domain release and there is no mention of it on Lemon Amiga or even the Hall of Light. But I think given the prospect of a public domain title, I think the mazes are intricate enough, and the AI is certainly better than our previous game, and the graphics are nicely drawn and are full size. Unfortunately it is spoilt by not having any sound effects, but the lack of music doesn't really affect this game, and I guess the player could install their own music in the background. So as we move along there we collect those pills, and those are timed. In this game the pills are timed quite lengthy, and that gives us plenty of opportunity to run in there and chomp away those ghosts. Ghosts will return to the ghost home, or the ghost cave it is called in some titles, and then they will dwell in that place for a number of seconds before re-emerging and chasing us down. Luckily in this game the AI isn't too great, and once that level is complete, what we have to do there, if we can follow that arrow, that will take us on to a new level, and we have to complete that all over again. You can see the AI certainly has an increase on this new level, and the speed seems to have speeded up as well. So if we move along there, yes, this is yet another level, and it turns into Pac-Man Maze. Really, Pac-Man World should be the name of this game, because it will memorize our patterns and the dots that we've managed to clear. So if we move on to a previous level that we've cleared already, as we are doing, then you can see there the level is clear. So this is a maze, and there are quite a number of rooms in this Pac-Man clone, and I'd say only the lack of music and sound effects really spoils it. Otherwise, it's a noble public domain effort. Let's move on. Our next title is Deluxe Pac-Man AGA, released in 1995 by Norway's Edgar M. Vigdal. Just like Deluxe Galaga, this has been coded by the same author, and the sound and the music is by the same author as well. So let's check out the options there. You can see from the main menu it's pretty similar to Deluxe Galaga, except those aren't listed all together. The player will just have to memorize those buttons and select their options from there. But selecting the normal mode, let's walk into this game, check it out. Unlike our previous candidates, this version is pretty similar to the arcade original, and if we overlay the arcade on top of there, you can see how close that is. But unlike the arcade, it will give you extra power-ups in this game, which are not available in the arcade, and you can see exits there flashing left and right. They will flash and they will be electrified, but I think that saves the ghosts moving through the exits, and I think we are safe from that electrical power. And you can see we can also pick up extend letters as well. But that's the first level over, and after each level it will give us that screen and it will flash on to the next one. You can see on the far right the tokens are piling up in the corner, and that will denote the level that we are on. And the pills last a long time in this game, so again that gives us all the time we need to munch down on those enemies. A shield there will also help, and that will make us travel straight through those enemies, and that will not harm us at all. And the shield will last, but I'm using those tokens there to get those enemies off my back, because there's nothing worse than enemies crowding the area. And look at this, even a pistol is available in this game, and we can shoot the ghosts out of the maze. And that's certainly a unique feature to this game, and one which is certainly appreciated. So that's level 2 completed. Let's move on to the next one. You can see the mazes do change from level to level, and the mazes are quick to complete. So it doesn't take a long time to get through these levels, and a quick jump in play is certainly possible. Let's collect that bonus item, whatever that may be, and if we are quick in this game, then we can munch down on those power pills just in time to turn those ghosts into a friendly ghost, which we can then munch down on and disappear. And so munching down on those ghosts, it's sometimes possible to leave those power pills until last, and that's the tactic that I prefer. And then if I get into trouble, I can find a power pill and get myself out of it. But you can see there I can wrap around these levels just like the arcade, and the arcade game has simply been enhanced and advanced with this creation, and the sound effects are amazing. You can see I can even pause the enemies there. The sound effects are terrific, and the action and the gameplay is terrific, and unlike the previous 2 candidates that we saw, the controls in this game are very smooth and very reactionary. In fact, we can guide this character around the maze very quickly indeed. And so, unfortunately, Pac-boy was difficult to control and very annoying to control actually, and even the 87 Pac-Man had its difficulties, but you can tell this is fast, this is smooth, and this is very professionally programmed. So I'd certainly recommend this game to Pac-Man fans on the Amiga. Each of these clones will have their own AI, and I have to say this game has a perfect AI level. On some games it is a little too hard, but this one gives the player a hard time with it making life too easy. But if the player does make a mistake, they will die. Even as we enter our name into the high score table, you can see a rendered lightwave creation there of a Pac-Man in a Colosseum, and our measly score is at the top. But in case you thought that was the best on offer, then let me enlighten you. This is Pac-Man 96 AGA. As you can hear, this game really does have catchy music, and it also has great authentic sound effects as well. From the options menu, we can adjust the sound effects, and we can also change the music, and even the screen mode options are available in this menu. A great thing about this game is if we inspect the options, that comes with a built-in construction set where we can edit the levels to our heart's content, and we can even clear the level and refill that with items, and we can set up our own mazes just like that. And yes, we can even play this maze to see what it would be like without any walls. So let's get on with that and let's try it out. This game was developed by the demo team Alcatraz, who you may have seen with demo releases on the Amiga. Alcatraz was an Austrian team, and their main coder in this game, who provided the code, the graphics and the music, was Andreas Oberdorfer, and he certainly went far in the Amiga scene. His nickname was Poseidon, so look out for Poseidon with those demo releases. To help him with the code was Jürgen Schrober, and to help him with the graphics was Christopher Dessauer. And so the graphics and the code and the playability certainly stands up in this game. Let's go back to the main menu and let's try and play this game using the one player mode. You can see there again a very nice similarity to the arcade version of Pac-Man, again released in 1980. And so things haven't really moved on much in those 11 years. But you can see the graphics are fluid, the playability still holds up, and those ghosts there really do have intelligence. We can also press the fire button at any point to pause the action, and that will bring up the options menu, and from here we can also change the soundtrack. So let's continue. This soundtrack actually reminds me of a cartoon theme, so if anybody can remind me of the Looney Tunes cartoon that this actually came from, or perhaps Rough and Ready, or wherever it did come from, I'd certainly appreciate it. But you can see I'm halfway to clearing the map already, and let's change that soundtrack. There are 3 soundtracks in this game. The first one, as you heard, is a very bouncy number. The second one isn't too great at all, and this third one is actually the popcorn theme, which is actually very well done indeed. So I'd certainly recommend this theme, and it adds something to the game. So only a few more of those food pills to find, and it really gets confusing calling those power dots because it doesn't give us any power at all, but clearing all those dots will promote us onto the next level. And yes, the levels in this game do change, and the music does wrap around from level to level. So this game is slightly bigger on screen than the Deluxe Pac-Man that we saw earlier on, and so as the maze is bigger, the characters are smaller. I think this adds to the effect and is closer to the original Pac-Man and adds to the feel of the game. Unfortunately, we do not get those power-up tokens like Deluxe Pac-Man, and we have to make do with the standard items. The ghosts are semi-dumb, and they will not usually follow us if we decide to move from screen to screen, from one side to the other. So it's a nice one to check out, particularly with the construction set. Moving on, we find Cyberman, which was created by Fabio Bizzetti in 1993. In this game, we play as a 3D Pac-Man in a 3D world, and by collecting all those dots, again, all those power munchies, in this game, they will actually give us energy. You can see the energy bar there is right at the bottom of the screen, and as long as we keep munching on those power dots, then we'll have enough energy to continue. If we don't, then we'll start to lose energy, and that's another added tactical element in this game. You can see the map there in the top right corner, and so avoiding these enemies is a matter of keeping a close eye on that map. The sound effects really add a lot to this game, and all 4 enemies have their own sound effects. The enemies in this game are a Nintendo controller, the acorn you can see at the top there, and there is also an Atari icon as well, and a manky old rotten apple. So you can hear those guys approaching, and the audible atmosphere in this game is really tremendous, and it creates an amazing atmosphere which I haven't heard on most Amiga games, and it reminds me of a film score, to be honest. And so I spent many hours trying to get this game to work, and the graphics were flashing repeatedly until I found a great emulation, but I eventually did get this to work. And a great thing about this title as well is the fact that we can jump. That's right, because this is a 3D environment, we can actually press the fire button and we can jump in there. That will get rid of those enemies, and that will get those off our back. At the moment, you can see I'm rapidly running out of those pills, and so our energy will start to decrease. Now things become more tense, because if we don't find energy soon, then we're going to run out. There are power supplies on each level, and you will find 1 power upgrade per level, which will give us full health. And you'll also find triangles and squares there, which will give us power-ups and bonus energy. But in the main, we will find only bonus top-ups there, and pills, usual power pills, will save us from those enemies. And just like normal Pac-Man, we can munch on those, and they will return home. So you can see I'm cleaning up the last few pills there on this level, and so let's make our way down to the bonus item collection point, which could be anything at this point, and we just managed to collect that whilst jumping over the enemy. The jumping is very smooth in this game, and unfortunately the graphics do flicker because they're interlaced resolution mode, but that has been done to good effect. In this game I'm going to speed up the footage because it's a little slow. We can push forward to speed up the action, and by pulling back on the controller there you can see me turning around on the spot. And as this is Pac-Man, we cannot stop the player dead. You can see there munching down on those enemies in 3D adds a lot to the experience. If that energy pill wears off, then we will get hit and the screen will flash red to show that we are being hit, and our energy will be depleted. Our energy will also go down if we jump, and if we take too long finding those power pills. So let's just collect the last few power pills on this level. And this should be it, and that's right, well done. Go out now. So you can see on the far right of the map is an exit, and you can see the arrows are actually pointing us in the right direction, the blue arrows there. And so if we continue there, hopefully we'll be able to make it. You can hear our energy is running out because we have not collected those power pills, but luckily that freezes when we enter the interstage screens, and by pushing forward there we can run along those runs and we can find the next level. And I can't find level 2, but level 3 is in this direction, so let's have a go at that. As soon as we start level 3, our energy is bottoming out, and if we don't push forward on the controller, we get precious little energy back. So we have to push forward on the controller just to get enough energy to restock, and if we wander off a perfect line, then again the energy will bottom out. And because this is level 3, it really does take a tremendous effort to keep that energy maintained. And you can see I'm pushing forward, and this game actually gets pretty frantic by the 3rd level. As far as I know, there are 5 levels in the game, and each one gets progressively faster and harder. The 3D, as you can see, really adds something to the effect, and it really is difficult sometimes plotting your maneuvers in 3D when your course is laid on the map. But you can see a purple power pill there that will actually give us invulnerability for a limited number of time, and it will also give us the amount of energy that we need to progress. Yes, by jumping, instead of losing energy, that will award us energy with the purple pill, and that's been no more necessary than right now. So we can actually top up with those energy pills while we have the purple, and that will give us a respite. We can even follow those aliens there and get extremely close, like Tron. And so this game does remind me of Tron, and it has that same eerie atmosphere. And I couldn't help thinking that a 3D version of Tron would be a good idea, but this 3D version of Pac-Man, despite those purple invulnerability pills there, which actually give us a fighting chance on this level, you can find ordinarily this game is pretty tough. So let's avoid those enemies, and I guess the best part about the whole experience is the jumping mechanism, which is very smooth, and we can actually look over walls and inspect the enemies by jumping. But unfortunately, I'm just about to run out of energy on this level, having run out of power pills, and that's my game over. On to the main event. This is Pacmania, developed by Tech Software and published by Grand Slam in time for Christmas 1988, which was a year after the original Namco arcade original. If we press the fire button, just like the arcade, that will bring up the options screen. From here we can choose the world that we wish to start on from the first 3, and there are 4 worlds in the game. So let's select World 1. After which, an arcade style presentation sequence gives us a nice animation, and you will notice there are 4 ghosts there but only 3 colours. As we enter the game itself, you can see Pacmania is an isometric 3D Pac-Man clone, where the actual level itself moves around the central character rather than the central character moving around the level. And so moving the map around the central character is familiar to most players, having played Mario Kart and things like that, but in its day this kind of view was novel in the arcades. You can see most features have made themselves available from the arcades, including the ghosts and the number of ghosts. There were 5 ghosts on this first level, and those 5 ghosts only come in 3 colours. Blinky is still red, and you'll find 2 Blinkies on this level, and the blinky red ghosts are limited in their view. When they see the character, they will head for the character, otherwise they will tend to run away. The green ghosts there are actually called Funky, and you will see Inky is missing, the light blue ghost, and Pinky and Clyde. But we also have a new purple ghost known as Sue, and apparently Sue came from Mrs. Pac-Man, and the purple ghost, as we shall see later on, is like a homing missile, and so do not wander into the line of the purple ghost, otherwise that will track you down. So I'm trying to get that last power pill there and avoid all these clones. It would have been nice to see the ghosts in their original colours, and I'm sure that wasn't beyond the original capabilities of the Amiga. But apart from that, you can see arcade quality graphics there, maybe not arcade perfect, but I'd say unlike Super Hang-On was nowhere near arcade perfect, and Snow Bros was a really good arcade conversion. I'd say this is a mixture of the two. Don't forget the original arcade featured a rear projection screen, so we don't get rear projection unless you're playing this on a rear projection TV, but I think the Amiga conversion is probably the best out there. You can see on the Amiga I'm being crowded out and being killed there, so what can we do about that? Luckily, just like the arcade and just like Cyberman that we've just seen, we can actually press fire there and jump over the heads of those ghosts. And so even maneuvers in the air are possible in this game, and we can change direction in mid-air, so just like Cyberman, it gives us a lot of evading opportunities. The cutscenes there are from the arcade, and they are perfectly renditioned on the Amiga, and even the Commodore 64 version was a very good arcade clone of this game. You can see the main character moves very slowly at the beginning, and it will take a number of levels before we manage to get that character up to speed. In this early section of the game, it's very easy to wander into enemies and traps by mistake, so the player has to take their time and avoid all the enemies at all costs, and if not, you can always jump over those guys. But be warned, those enemies can track us, and they aren't stupid by a long chalk. No, this is not the original arcade version. If they see the player, they will make moves towards them, and as you can see there, the enemy is trying to back me into a corner. A good tip to remember is to save those power pills, those big yellow pills, before you get killed. And if you save those hanging around there until you really are on the verge of getting killed, and you pick one of those up, then you can survive more on the level. You can see there I'm collecting a large number of dots and saving the power pill, but when those enemies start to crowd us out, it's time to collect that and make for those difficult sections. Usually these diagonal cut through sections are the hardest because they are adjacent to the ghost home and you don't want to hang around there for very long. So once that is cleaned up, you can see there in the bottom corner something materialized and disappeared. That was a bonus item and that will give us extra score. Unlike Deluxe Pac-Man, we won't find extra weapons there waiting for us to pick up, but we will find extra power pills and even speed up tokens later on. But for the moment, let's just concentrate on saving ourselves and avoiding the ghosts. And as long as we avoid their direct line, we should be fine. Only the purple ghost needs to be avoided. And, well, I'm going to pick that power pill up anyway, and that gives us a limited time to get back to find the pills we missed. We can cut through, and this isometric 3D actually wraps the screen around to allow us to loop the level. And as long as we avoid those guys there, avoiding their eye contact yet again, then it's a sneak 'em up. We should be able to prison break our way around the landscape, and when those enemies get too close, it's best to chomp those away. The purple Sue ghost there will have purple eyes before she runs back to the ghost home, and you will find every time you munch her away, she will come back all the stronger. So I find it's the best tip not to get the purple ghost early on, and then that won't build her up to be impossible to defend against later on. At the start of each game, it's usually best to collect as many of those pills as possible without going for the major power pills, and then only go for those at the end of the level when you really need those. So that's what I'm doing. It's an avoid 'em up, and as long as I can soak those up without getting caught. Oh, look at that Sue hot on our trail there, and a green speed pill. Let's see if we can make it. Sometimes we can collect that green speed pill. That gives us all the time in the world to hoof those things up, and if we pick those up in line with the power pill as well, that actually gives us a free ride on the level. But those ghosts materialize really quickly there, and so you can see the Sue ghost now tracking me down there really doggedly on my tail. Let's see if we can get that power pill, and well, that was a hasty maneuver. You can turn in midair to turn around corners, and you can see there I'm speeding up the footage to clear up this level, and at this stage the power pills last for long enough to destroy a few of those, but you can see it doesn't really last for a long time, unlike some of the other games we've seen. And on the later levels, the ghosts will basically turn back to ghosts very quickly, even collecting the power pills adjacent to them. That will only give 1 second before they turn back on the very later levels. So the time limits in this game really do account for a lot. But sometimes those ghosts are far too clever for us and we die. Unlike all the other Pac-Man clones we've seen, we cannot see the whole maze, and so we cannot prejudge where those ghosts are going to be, and this essentially prevents us from making long-term strategies. And so we can only make short-term plans and see if we can follow those through. And you can see when we move into the corner there, that cuts off virtually the whole of the map, and so the fog of war in this game really plays a part. After playing the first world once and the second world twice, we get to play the third world twice. And you can see this is known as a sandbox town, and in those days sandbox locations were pretty unique. Sandbox 3D environments like this weren't really common in the arcades, even in the Pac-Man environment. But because this game is 3D, it allows us to jump, and the jumping also adds a great element to this game. Yet now we've reached the third world, and now on, the green ghost will be able to jump with us, and so we press fire and they jump at the same time. Sometimes you can get around those, but from now on we must remember that green ghosts cannot really be jumped over, and red ghosts there are often as blind as a bat. So avoid the green and avoid the red, and certainly avoid the purple. Collect the green pills there because they speed us up, and now we can use those to our advantage. Let's clean the top of that level while we still have that advantage, and just as they turn back there, while we still have the green pill on our side, that gives us enough speed to get through these levels. So even though this game starts off slowly, it does increase in speed and the tension does build up now that we can't jump over those green guys, and the rest is basically an avoid 'em up. So you can see hot on my trail there, it only just gives us enough time before that thing catches up. So let's speed up this level and get through the rest of this game. That takes us on to the second round of this third world. The only thing that really changes from level to level is the system colour palette, and it depends on the colour palette to how this level will look. Apart from that, the layouts are identical and the ghosts basically follow the random patterns that they follow. So these levels can be memorised, and a perfect pattern can be memorised as long as you follow a formula. If you get yourself into trouble early there, then sometimes it's hard to get out, but because we can jump, because of that 3D mechanic, there in theory at least is no situation that we cannot get out of because we can jump over those guys. So you can see me using the speed effect there of the fast forward feature on this thing to fast forward us through these levels. Usually these levels aren't boring, it's just that this play guide and review is carrying on for some time, so I hit this to become boring, and so let's skip on to the next world. Now the overtones of the music get darker, and you can see those great graphics there in the background, and now we find ourselves on a floating island. We will need to complete this level twice and then the game will loop. It is possible to complete the game by looping these worlds 3 times, and just like the arcade, there are 30 levels in the entire game. Some background information: this game was converted and coded for the Amiga by Pete Harrap, who worked previously on Taramex before this in 1987 for Grand Slam, and moved on to Klax in 1990, and all the Manchester United games, as well as Soccer Kid in 1993 on the Amiga. He was also helped in the code by Sean Hollingworth, who also worked on Taramex, as well as the Flintstones with Pete Harrap, and he moved on to Tubin for DeMark in 1990 and Soccer Kid. The graphics were created by Jason Wilson, who moved on to Laser Squad after this in '89, and he worked on Warlock and Shadow Warriors in 1990 and The Great Hero Quest in 1991. The music was created by Ben Dalgleish, who created a rake of great 64 tunes including Biggles, Tarmax and Switchblade, and on the Amiga he also created Supercars music, Hot Rod and Legends of Valor. The great music there is copied from the arcade and it certainly works brilliantly. The graphics aren't 256 colours, but the Amiga's colour palette has been used to great effect. And so this conversion by TechSoft is certainly better than some of their other conversions, particularly Chase HQ and Continental Circus on the Amiga, but at least TechSoft created this and Shadowlands, which were great games. Back on the Amiga, you can see we've made it to the second level of this 4th world, and so if I complete this, the game will loop. You can see I'm speeding up the footage there just a little, but the action is smooth, the frame rate is certainly smooth, and you can see sometimes you can fool those ghosts and run away from those and hide from those in different places and corners of the map, and so strategies are certainly a part of this game. And as I say, if you can't do that, at least you can jump out of the way. So I hoover those things up there, and the bonuses you can see there have actually given me an extend. We had 0 lives remaining before, but we now have the current one plus an extra one, so in effect we now have 2. Let's hoover those things up and let's get the extra bonuses as well. You can see those things really appear quickly and are worth something by the time you get to this point, so the extra bonuses are worth going out of our way for. Let's actually collect that extra power pill, and that gives us the time to get over to the other side of the map, hopefully, and collecting the second one will give us the time to return to the bottom of the map without getting killed. Just like that. That gives us access to the last few pills, and the last pill is actually a power pill, which takes us on to level 1. But look at that colour scheme. Someone has definitely had a curry and spilt it all over the colour palette on this game. Unfortunately, I really have to apologise for these graphics. The colour palette used is pretty damn garish, and you need sunglasses to be able to see this level on a clear day. But apart from that, we return to level 1, and with double speed that we had on the original level 1, and if we find those green power pills, that will give us the extra speed we need to complete the level. The levels are fairly short, and again they mirror the original levels from the original Pac-Man and Pac-Mania in the arcades, so that means we can get through those and earn some extra points. Hopefully the player should be having fun by this stage and racking off these levels just like that, and increasingly in their speed and increasing in their fortunes makes this game addictive. And if you preserve all your lives by the time you get to this point, it gives you great confidence that you can actually complete this game and actually get far. You can see the colour scheme on the second round of the first world again is pretty nice, but this time we will actually play the first world 3 times in this second loop around, and that's not really so bad given the fact that the speed makes this game a joy. And you can see the purple ghosts by this stage are really intelligent, and if you've been killing those to this stage, they'll be really intelligent and they'll be faster than us. So it's certainly best not to kill those things, otherwise by this level we'll be paying the price. I have to say at this point that the playability really stands out as being extra smooth and playable. There are no bugs in this game, nothing which can spoil it. It is virtually arcade perfect except for the 256 colours, and they even made a half decent job at the music. The scrolling is super fluid and smooth, and the playability with the jumping mechanism is terrific. Unfortunately, I cannot see the screen at the moment because I'm having to wear an anti-radiation suit because of the colour palette on this level. It really is the worst colour palette level since Beach Volley, and that's taking us back to that absolutely cute colour that we managed to get on Outrun. But look at that, even the green power pill there I'm having to use basically to get us off this level because I'm getting a Geiger counter reading of 100%. Heading towards that pill, let's scoop that up, and I can't even see the pills on this level because the colour scheme is so bad. I can't even find the power pills, never mind the ordinary pills. Here it is, and let's get the heck out of here. Is this game arcade perfect? Well, the music is certainly frantic, and it increases the tension there, and is very reminiscent of the arcade. Apparently the graphics were downloaded from the arcade and ported to the Amiga's 16 colour palette. Unfortunately, there's no excuse for having half of the ghosts the wrong colour, because I'm sure the 16 colour palette would have allowed the orange. In fact, you can see orange on the screen already, so why couldn't they use that to colour in one of the ghosts? Another plus point of the Amiga version is it's actually full screen, and that was a native trick on the Amiga to have things massive on a full screen, and I certainly appreciate that aspect of the game, and it is novel on the Amiga to have something so big. And the playability is almost arcade perfect. Look at that, you can even jump over and save those pills until you really need those. And so tricks and tips can be observed, and makes this game highly fun and highly playable. In fact, I'd probably say that this is my favourite Pac-Man clone of all time. That really is saying something. So let's avoid the rest of these guys here. It really is difficult. You can see that purple ghost, Sue there, is actually much quicker than we are at this stage. So you have to make a run for those power pills and get those before we get caught out. And by munching down on Sue, we've avoided that, and there we go, on to the next round. Unfortunately, yet again, the colour palette has slipped, and so it's a mixed bag as far as the colours go. I'm not entirely sure that this was arcade quality colour-wise, but I think they've pretty much done a good job otherwise. And so let's head on for that green pill, and let's try and get through this level. Taking a look at the scores, Zap gave this 93% in January 1989 and awarded this a Sizzler. The Games Machine gave it 92%, Amiga Computing gave it 85%, Amiga User International gave it 80%, Ace rated it 77%, Commodore User only rated it 72%. And Tony Dillon in November 1988 which was basically as it was released, and only a number of months after the arcade original complained that this was too easy and already outdated. I don't think for a moment this game is either of those. I think the playability curve is perfect, maybe a little too easy on the early levels, and the speed is certainly a little too slow on the early levels, but once you get this far in the game, it's certainly a challenge. As far as speed and fluidity go, I'd say this is arcade perfect, and I couldn't fault the playability of this game if I tried. So, munching those last few pills there, we can clear this level and move on to the next one. And yes, here we are. This is the final level I will be showing you of this game. We have travelled virtually 2/3 of the way through this game together, and only the last level of this world, and then the third and the final loop around is to come. But unfortunately, we will not get that far. It is difficult enough at this stage, and if we make one mistake there with 0 lives in the bank, if we should run down there, then that means it's a big step into the unknown. Let's get that green pill, and that doesn't really speed us up much at this stage, but you can see I'm not having to speed up this footage now because the graphics really do shift, and it's still silky smooth. This is a 50 frames per second game, and even though the screen ripper only rips at 30, unfortunately I was just a little too slow to get that power pill there, and even though I collected it according to the sound effects, it still killed me. So thank you for watching another play guide and review to a selection of Pac-Man clones and Pac-Mania on the Amiga. Hope to see you soon in another play guide and review. Cheers.